Cuphead is a game that can be difficult on its own, but with added challenges becomes a nightmare. I, today, will be willing subject to its torture. How? By completing the game as fast as I can using only the Divine Relic. I was originally just going to beat the game, but people have done more with less. I've seen all speedruns of people doing the whole game 1 HP with one shot only. So I decided to make it a bit unique. Until Luna takes over the world and basically eats us, wanna hit the subscribe button and like the video. Before we start the challenge, I'll explain a few rules that I set up. As the challenge suggests, a Divine Relic must be equipped at all times. This means that the entire time during this run I can't use any other charms. That also includes not using Miss Chalice, because to use Miss Chalice in the first place you need to have the cookie charm equipped. Rule 2. To make the run harder, I've decided to fight all bosses in expert mode only. This basically forces me into fighting the bosses within a reasonable time, and also it makes the grading a bit harsher, so that if I get like a B+, I'll have to redo it and at least get a good grade. Because I'm not going to do the challenge with barely passing C's, because that's a lame way to do it. Rule 3. Back to the grades, I like to say that S ranks are not required, but I do have to get a grade better than A-. This feeds back into Rule 2, where I can't just, again, sloppily push through the fights to get like C's and just be like, that's good enough. No, the grades I need to get are A-, A+, or an S rank. Rule 4. This rule's a bit obvious, but to be able to pass a boss, I have to beat it in under 2 minutes. I first was thinking under 1:30, but then realized it would make some bosses unnecessarily difficult. I will add one thing though. I will give myself 4 exceptions, 1 for each aisle, throughout the run. When we get to an exception boss, I'll explain why that boss, why I did it, and how I'm gonna make up for it. Rule 5. Because the Divine Relic is a DLC item, I'll also fight the DLC bosses on Equal Aisle 4 with the same rules above. I'd also like to add that in between each aisle I'll add timestamps. Other than those 5 rules, this challenge is mostly straightforward, as it's just a simplified version of a speedrun. For the rest of the video, I'll go over each aisle explaining how each boss was easy, hard, what made it difficult, stuff like that, just kind of going over the boss. Real quick before we actually get into the challenge, I'd like to go over the shots real quick and explain each one. Pea Shooter is the first shot you ever use in the game, and it does good damage with an alright X move. It's not the best, but it does better than other shots. Spread is definitely one of the best shots in the game with its great damage at short range. The short range isn't even an issue. Most bosses let you get really close without like any trouble. Chaser is a bit useless normally, but it can be useful when you want to focus on avoiding attacks. It has a lower damage output, but it automatically goes to the boss, so you can completely focus on dodging and maneuvering and all that. Lobber is probably the second worst shot in the game, but only in comparison to others, obviously. Like, it's a decent shot with the balls bouncing a bit before they just splat. And the X move, it's just a bigger version of the normal shot, so it's a bit just not that good. Charge is probably the shot that does the most damage. You just can't spam it because it's you have to charge it up obviously, and then it lets go. I personally would not really use it a lot because its X move is kind of useless because it's just an explosion in front of you, which rarely, honestly it probably would never really hit anything. Roundabout is a shot that everybody talks about the most, but I still would prefer to use another shot. As the name suggests, it's a shot that it goes forward for a bit, then it U-turns around and goes in the opposite direction. People talk about it a lot because apparently when it turns back it does the most damage, and it's just people find a way to cheese the game with this. Moving on to the DLC weapons now, Crackshot is a definite better version of Chaser. What it does is basically it's a full projectile that splinters off into one shot that automatically goes to the enemy. It homes in on them a bit. And it's really good. The special is good too because it's parryable, so you can kind of cheese the game a bit by shooting out your X move, parrying it, getting some HP back, and then you're good. You're golden. Converge is basically Pea Shooter and Spread combined together, taking the best of both worlds and creating a really great shot that does pretty good damage. The X move is good because you can shoot a straight lightning bolt into the boss, and it's just a really universally great shot. Twist Up is literally the worst shot in the game. Sure, it can be useful, but compared to the other shots, it just doesn't compare. It's not even close. Even the X move's alright. You shoot a mini tornado that probably does like 2 damage. Not a great shot. Now I know this isn't a shot, but to show the full loadout, I'll show the super art I'll be using, which will be Super Art 1. It's probably the best super art because, I mean, it's a straight laser beam into the boss. Super Art 2 is just like invincibility for 2 seconds. Super Art 3 is just a spinning ghost buff thing. So yeah, out of the 3, it's definitely the best. Super Art 1, not 3, not 3! Now, finally, we can start the Divine Challenge run. First stop, Inkwell Isle 1.
Beef rap could lead to getting teeth capped, or even a reef from armed dudes on some grief crap. I suggest to change your diet. It can lead to high blood pressure if you're fried, or even a stroke, heart attack, heart disease. It ain't no starting back once arteries start to squeeze.
Being one of the first bosses in the game, these guys were no challenge at all. I reset once because I thought taking damage would ruin my run, but then I realized that the point of the run is how fast, not if I can get S ranks. But it doesn't matter. The first stage was easy because the only thing you had to do was jump over the dirt balls and parry the worms. Divine Relic kind of showed how annoying it could be, because sometimes like you don't get the right weapon, but he still died, so it doesn't matter. For this one, I decided to shoot the onion and just get through the second stage as quickly as possible. Like, nothing crazy hard here. You just gotta avoid his tears falling down. I think some are parryable, but I do not go for the parries because you could miss the jump and end up getting hit. But either way, there's like a secret version of the stage. If you don't shoot him, he's happy. He goes on the ground, and then you have to deal with this Tasmanian devil radish thing spinning around in the third stage. I'll throw a picture of him real quick, but it's just super annoying trying to deal with the carrot's attacks or the third stage's attacks while also dealing with the radish. But it doesn't matter how you do the second stage; it will always be the easiest. Leading into the third stage, this was easy. Obviously, this is the first freaking boss of the game. But nothing was really hard here. You just have to avoid the flying carrots and then this fucking mind rays. I don't know what the hell this carrot is up to, but you got fucking mind rays. The main weapons I would use here is probably spread or the lightning bolts, whatever they're called. You can use them to destroy the carrots while hitting him. But really any shot is useful against him because while he's like rubbing his temple, trying to stack up more mind rays, you can shoot him with really anything and it'll do damage. The one thing I would recommend is to, while he's doing that, get rid of any carrots on screen. Just get rid of anything in your way, because like sometimes the mind rays and the carrots, they combine into this new mutation across the screen. It's hard to avoid. But honestly, once you get rid of all that, it's the first boss of the game. It's obviously going to be easy. You really don't have to like prepare much. Just shoot him and destroy the carrots. No matter which way you decide to beat the root pack by killing the onion or dealing with the radish, this boss is definitely the easiest and will always be the easiest boss ever in Cuphead. And I managed to get a nice little easy S rank right under the belt. There are a lot of iconic bosses in Cuphead, and I think Goopy is among them. While this is said, his boss fight mostly stays the same among the 3 stages. Stage 1 consists of Goopy basically jumping around. He can either jump low or jump high, but either way, you have to run in between his landings. And most shots can hit him while he's jumping about. But to finish this stage as quickly as possible, I'd recommend using Spread, Crackshot, or Chaser. Spread I would recommend more out of the 3 because you can hit him while he lands, because he has to like he waits like at least a second before jumping again. But also Spread is definitely better when he does his like punching attack or sneeze, cough, whatever the hell he does, because you can crouch under him while he's coughing, sneezing, you can hit him while he's doing that. Spread and chaser, I mean, they're self-explanatory. You can just run around and the shots will still hit him. Stage 2 starts off with the Goopy popping a perk and he grows bigger. The 3 parryable question marks are useful because with the Divine Relic you can get an extra 2 HP. But really the only change here is that his hops are a bit lower on expert mode, so you have to either like dash directly under him like very quickly, or you can just turn around and walk back a bit. His punch attack is the exact same as his like cough thing, sneeze. In the first stage you can still crouch under it. But really there's not too much different in this stage. The only real difference is he doesn't jump as high, he's bigger, so he's easier to hit. And that's really the only differences. Due to you killing him, stage 2 is the only one of the stages that's actually different. Because when he's in his grave form, he's rolling back and forth trying to slam on you. Kinda like those thwomps from Mario, but definitely less hideous. The strategy though, the little strat here, is just a run back and forth, you know, obviously run back and forth. But nothing really stood out in these 3 stages, just a nice quick easy boss to get through Inkwell IO1. Now when it comes to KG Carnation, he's a bit unique because he only has 2 stages and they're both pretty easy as long as you avoid the machine gun attack he does in the beginning, which sends like these seed bombs everywhere. The seed bombs can either be these like flying, what are they called, like flower spitters I guess, like they shoot little like parryable seeds, chomp plants on the floor, and then these also like other ones, they're little like chompers flying in the air. There's lots of flying things this guy shoots. But in expert mode it seems like he does it for 40 seconds straight, just shooting these seeds everywhere. But then he finally decides to move on and he starts throwing like boomerangs, carrots. He kind of cycles through these 3 attacks and then occasionally he'll like launch his face out of his head, either above the platforms or under the platform. That's also pretty easy. You just gotta either jump up or jump down. This stage takes up a bulk of the fight because he cycles through like the 4 attacks like a lot before you finally get him to the second stage. But if you realize the pattern that there's going on, there seems to be a little pattern, nothing like insane, nothing game breaking. You cheese the whole game, you find out how to beat every single boss. But there's a little pattern where you can kind of like see, oh, he's about to do this, he's about to do that. Hit him with whatever shot you got, and then you can probably get him quickly. At the start of the second stage, it seems KG's finally lost his mind, trying to rip out his petals and drugging up the arena. And there's 2 attacks here as he starts spitting pollen flowers. Some of them are parryable, some of them are not. And then while this is happening, there's also like thorn vines coming out of the ground and hitting the platforms. But there's nothing too bad here, just the problem is sometimes the flowers and the vines could like match up to perfectly hit you. But sometimes it could be a parryable one, which could be handy. You can land on it, hit a parry, either get a card, or if you have the Divine Relic like I did, get some HP. But really this is a no sweat battle, and this is probably this isn't the easiest fight, but he definitely is not the hardest. But unfortunately that ends the easiest part of the challenge so far, because after this it's just bosses that are a pain in the ass.
Hey yo, I put the feline in my hair, looking like a chia pet. And you know they getting green if a flower on their neck. If a flower on their neck, hit Clancy on the text. I ain't trying to check a bag, can we get another jet? I ain't gassing niggas up, but that feel is 50 grand. Passion fruit and DR, had me dripping in the sand. New nigga from New York, I'ma give him sticky hands, sticky fingers from the Grange. After playing with the grams, niggas playing at the grams. 1 nom ain't enough, I'ma make sure that shit is
Fuck. This boss was hard. This boss was probably the hardest boss in the game. And I know I'm only on equal out once. I'm just gonna before I start ranting about it, I'm gonna go into the actual fight. There's technically like 10 stages, but there's 4 actual ones, and then the other stages add up to like little in-between segments. But I'll get into stage 1 real quick. This stage gives you a little taste of what's to come ahead. The annoying boss and the fucking minions that show up at the worst time possible. But I mean, this stage is not that bad because you can just drop bombs on her head, and then she'll transform into the second stage pretty quickly. Just drop like 5 bombs and she'll already be done. This is the first of 2 stages where she turns into like the star signs. I think this one's used Gemini. But this is pretty easy too, because it's basically just the twins at the end of the screen, and they shoot. They don't shoot, but they like drop a star cloud orb thing in the middle of the screen, and then the bullets fire clockwise or counterclockwise. I think an expert, the bullets are super fast, and like if they're like right behind you, you're not gonna be able to avoid it in time. They're really the easiest way to beat them is just to stay on top, again hitting with bombs, and then once the orb comes, kind of go lower, like in the middle of the screen, kind of in between the orb and the twins. That way, either way it'll start spinning. You have at least some time to avoid it. But really, just the fastest way to do this stage is to bomb them, and then if you have a nuke ready, hit the nuke. Because really, this stage should only last like 2 orb rotations, and then after that, it just goes on to a mini stage with little, like, not little, but there's tornadoes flying at you. Again, it's a mini stage, and then it just leads into the next star sign. After another goofy transformation, Hildeberg turns into this Sagittarius Cupid dude and begins another stage of flying around, avoiding stuff on screen. But this time there's like way more to worry about. You have to worry about the arrows he shoots, the stars that come with the arrows, and then again a lot of the minions. There's a lot more here. But honestly, this is a lot similar to stage 2. You just have to kind of like really look at the screen, see what there is on screen, see what you need to avoid, what you need to shoot, and again, like make sure the arrows aren't like coming your way. Because there are a few tricks here you can do. What you can do is while he's like arming his arrow, he's about to shoot, you can drop bombs on like the tip of the arrow to make sure that you can hit him. You hit him obviously, but you can also have a chance of destroying the stars as the arrow is shot. And there's another trick where I got from this video. I'll show it up on screen. But you can move in circles after the arrow is shot, after it's off screen. The stars are still there, but you can move in circles, kind of avoiding them, staying just ahead of them, but you could also have an opportunity to shoot them once you're like at the back end of the screen. Also, it's good movement to have because you can avoid basically anything on screen. But honestly, the biggest thing here is just to use as many X moves, nukes, anything. Just use anything you can to finish this stage, because the hell doesn't end there. Because you already know Cuphead likes to make the suffering last as long as it can. The final stage begins with Hildeberg having a seizure, and it turns into a whole moon. Half of one, but still. Here, everything flying across the screen is amped by 10, with like there's stars that go slow, some that go fast, some that just fucking hit you for no reason. But again, the UFOs, they show up and they have a pattern. Again, the video I will show, kudos to them, because this video got me through a lot of this fight. But basically the basic pattern is that the brown UFOs, they only go off when they're just ahead of you, and the red ones go off as you fly under them. Remembering this part of the fight is really crucial, because you have to avoid the stars while remembering, oh, there's a brown one, I gotta stay back a bit, there's a red one, I gotta go right under it. But once you memorize all that, you finally got it down. This is still going to be kind of annoying because there's still too much going on. And then the best thing I recommend here is honestly, again, like stage 2, just spam X moves, nukes, whatever you have, spam it here. But I say the real issue with this whole fight doesn't come with having to do all of these, because if you really look at them, they're pretty easy. The problem is having to do all of these in under 2 minutes. I kind of forgot I had to do it fast on some runs because I was just worried about beating it at the end of the day. But after an hour and like 3 chugged water bottles straight just to get me through this fight, I got the perfect time of 1:59. It's under 2 minutes, so I'll take it.
Shoot the maggots with the palm. Got it, let it paddock on my arm. You got static, pussy nigga, run your charm. Go some killers, Wu-Tang, 21 News Gang, drug dealers, in the Mustang, at the top of the food chain. Jumping the cocaine, low gang, shoot it with no name. Look at that gang.
There's a reason I put off Ribby and Croaks to the final fight, the final boss I'd have to deal with in Eagle Isle 1. But I'll explain why through this little rant that I have. The fight includes Ribby and Croaks, these Street Fighter ass frogs. On Expert, they both attack at the same time, but the good thing is this isn't an issue because I'm focused on speed and not S rank, so I can take hits here. There's not a lot. The problem with the early stages is that you have to do these as fast as humanly possible to make up for the final stage. I'll be back to this in a minute on why this third stage is just annoying. But to the first stage, it's really easy. You just avoid the fireflies and also avoid the fucking Ryu fireballs the fat one shoots. Stage 2 begins with the obese frog rolling across the screen just to make the fight that and more annoying. The tall one starts up a fan while Ribby, the fat one, throws more fireballs or claps up mini Saturns that come across the screen that like bounce up and down. Kind of like, what was his name? Goopy, but not like, obviously not. It's crazy. But I'm really looking at the stage. It's not hard to see a pattern because Croaks, the tall one, when his fan starts, you just have to constantly run towards him and then stop a little bit if the Saturn's gonna like hit you. Little Saturns. If they're gonna hit you, then stop a little bit, but don't like stop enough to fall back. The one tip though is never crouch. Never crouch, because even if you need to crouch, yes, the fireballs are annoying and you can jump over them, just don't crouch because they could really slow you down or push you back far enough so you can get hit by Ribby. And then once you get hit by Ribby, it falls apart from there because you have to get back, you have to walk forward again, and then there's a chance that maybe he does another attack which could let you get hit by it. But that doesn't matter, just stay running towards the fan, stop a little bit whenever you need to, and never crouch. Those are the main things to remember here. But once you get this stage over with, there's a final stage that makes this fight the nightmare that it became. Stage 3 is the most annoying stage I've ever had to fight, or at least on Eagle Isle 1. I don't know yet, but it's up there. The stage starts with Croaks swallowing up his friend and they form into a slot machine. Don't know how that works, but you know, it's Cuphead. It really doesn't make sense. But you have to wait a few seconds for a lever to become pink so you can parry it and then move on. But while you're waiting for that, there are coins flying at you with immense velocity and accuracy. It's actually crazy. But once you get your spin, you have 3 options of death. Frog, which is just platforms flying across the screen that get faster and faster. Tiger, which is a platform that shoots balls out of the top, so you have to time your jumps to get in between it. And Bowl. Bowl is not that hard compared to the others, but it's definitely not easier. You have to avoid these pucks that actually fly, like I think they fly in like the middle of the screen, so you can either jump or crouch under them. But you have to avoid the pucks, and they shoot lasers, so you either have to jump onto them or just stand underneath and hope that the next one isn't one that you have to jump over. But what really took the most time out of this fight was definitely this stage. I think you have to do at least 2 of the rolls, 2 of the what's the word I'm looking for? 2 of the stages of the roll. You have to do at least 2 of those, and like you have to do so much damage into them in those stages to move on to the fight. But man, does this take a while. The first try I did took 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Every other try I haven't managed to make it past 2 minutes and 10 seconds. But to really speedrun the stage, you have to zip through the first 2 stages as fast as possible and hope that you have enough time to finish the 3rd stage. It's just hard to push on focusing on this 3rd stage while trying not to take damage or dying during the first 2 stages. I've even had to look at YouTube videos of how to S rank these guys. I wasn't even trying to S rank, but I still needed the tips and tricks on how to beat them in a good enough time. But unfortunately, no matter what I did, no matter how fast I did it, it didn't even matter if I made it to 1 HP or not, I couldn't beat him in under 2 minutes. So I'll take, this will be an exception boss. Unfortunately, I had to do it. If I spent more time, I'm sure I could have done it. It's just that I didn't want to spend like a whole week just trying to do Ribby and Croaks in under 2 minutes. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Inkwell 1 is done. Just 3 more left. It's gonna be a long video.
Put your sister on the phone.
Yo, it's Victor. I knew you was in around playing all innocent.
Aisle 2 begins with Pennywise and his Hell Carnival, which looks phenomenal, and it fits perfectly within Aisle 2, like the aesthetic. But, I mean, the boss fight's what's important here, but there are 4 stages that take a bit of time. But if you got the tricks and like the tips on how to do it, you can easily run through the whole stage in under 2 minutes. This first stage is pretty short, just him tweaking around in the cart, while ducks above you try to block from you being able to dash over him. Some are parryable, some have these like light bulb bombs that explode into fire, and they can't hurt you if you're not paying attention, if you're just worried about hitting him. But nothing is like crazy here, it's just him doing whatever he is and doing his cart, tweaking around like I said. But he does get a little close, like sometimes I think he backs you into the corner, and if you don't do anything you just get hurt, so really just be careful and watch what the ducks are going. After crashing his cart and falling out, he turns into a balloon guy with a fat ass head. Damn! But this stage kind of sucks, I'm gonna be honest. It's also easy if you have spread or the converge, like the lightning bolts. You can hit anything on screen, but there's 2 ways of getting hurt here. One is the balloon dogs that just kind of fly out of the tubes. The other is a roller coaster that comes out of the background. You can actually see it coming out. And then just really watch when it's coming, that we don't get ran over. But I think the real like trick is to just focus on the dogs flying out and then avoid the roller coaster, but jump onto it like early, so that way you don't have to worry about being on the edge of the screen and be like, oh crap, I'm about to get hit because I can't jump in time. But really, yeah, just focus on the dogs, kill the dogs before they end up being too much trouble. But if you have the Divine Relic or at least Whetstone, you can spam it here because he's like right there. He's literally right above you. So every time you jump, you have a chance to parry real quick and just hit him. That's the best way to speed through the stage and maximize as much damage as possible. But I mean, really, you want to speed up the whole fight because this is a long fight and this is barely halfway through it. After popping him, Beppy chooses out of 2 horses to torture you with. The yellow one is the easy one because it just shoots horseshoes straight out of its mouth, and they cover the top of the screen, leaving a space that you're supposed to get into, so that when they fall down, you're obviously safe. But I mean, that's basically it. That's the yellow one. no challenge there. The green one, the green horse, is a little bitch because he, she, whatever it is, also shoots the horseshoes. Instead of going straight or doing anything that makes sense, they wobble up and down, and there's 3 of them because I'm playing on expert. The roller coaster is really the more annoying part here because sometimes Beppy has the yellow horse, it's about to shoot, and the roller coaster in front of you. What do? If you jump, you get hit. If you stay there, you get hit. So really, you just have to hope that you can get a dash off in time so that you can be safe. But this stage is just, if you don't pay attention, this stage is gonna be tough. But the good thing is that once you finish it, there's one less stage left, but the pain doesn't end there. This final stage is only hard because of what came before. That doesn't make sense, but just let me explain real quick. The past stages take a while to do if you're playing carefully, which I did for like the first few runs. I ended up getting like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 2 minutes and 20 seconds. But I think it took me like a day to finally realize that I gotta push. I really have to speed through this whole thing because I can't be getting 2 minutes and 30 seconds because the whole point of the run is to be fast. But with that explanation, this stage is really nothing special because there's like 2 attacks. The first one is that the roller coaster now speeds up, and it still comes from the background, but it speeds up, and you can't jump on it because it's so fast that you'll get hurt. And then there's like swings that you can stand on, and then after the roller coaster rolls by, penguins come out of Beppy's mouth somehow, I guess, and then those penguins throw baseballs, but there's 4 penguins, so that means 4 baseballs are flying at you. I think they can shoot. They throw them twice before the roller coaster comes again and it runs them all over. So really, just I don't even know what to say here. If you have a super, just use it here. That way you'll save. You can probably avoid getting hit once. You just still have to be really careful when you hit the super. But finally, after like a few hours, maybe a day, I don't know how long I spent on it, but I did it in under 2 minutes. Got the S rank. Let's move on. It was actually A rank, but it doesn't matter. You can see I still have an S. Baroness von Bonbon is one of the harder bosses of Inkwild 2. At least I thought, until I managed to do this first try. But her boss fight isn't like crazy. You don't need to have mastermind levels of thinking. It's just how long the stages take to finish. She has 4 stages, with 3 of them being fighting mini bosses like her minions. That are pretty annoying if you don't know how they move, how they fight. But really, like I said, you don't need to look too hard into this fight. Just pay attention to how the mini bosses move, how they fight. I keep repeating myself, but really just pay attention. I'll go over the 5 mini bosses and then move on to her 4th stage. Going in order on the Wikipedia, Lord Gobapacker is up first. He's this Pac-Man jawbreaker that has like 2 candies following him. At least on expert, I'm pretty sure on normal he only has 1. But he just follows you around and tries to eat you like Pac-Man. The best way to avoid him is to dash under him when he gets close and then jump backwards onto the platform and just loop around him. Spread is really the only shot you need here because, I mean, any other shot, and you could use it, but spread is the best thing because you can still shoot him while you're running. Next enemy is Colonel Von Pop. He's actually pretty similar to Gob because they both slide across the screen trying to eat you. The only difference is Pop moves everywhere from the top of the screen to the bottom, and he spits out little versions of himself. They're minions to a minion, really. He moves in a figure 8, which means he basically makes a sideways 8 across the screen. And I swear, once you figure it out, it's like cracking a code. Because you can just avoid him, because you know he's going to make an 8. You just avoid him, use your X moves, and get him out of the way. Because we still have quite a few bosses to get to, so let's get to them. I had to get someone else to get this gameplay for me, but it doesn't matter. Mufsky Chernikov is still one of the most troublesome mini boss here because of how unpredictable his jumps could be. Even his landings are almost unavoidable because he falls and there's frosting coming out of his sides, kind of shooting up. And when he leaves, there's still a bit more frosting there, so you really gotta watch where you move here. But there's a trick again. There's a trick here. If you stand on the platform, kind of bait him to jump to the other side of the screen, you can dash back to like opposite of where he is, and then just start shooting him there. What I recommend is again, spread or converge, and then make sure that if you're gonna use converge, make sure that you're like fully aimed in so that all the bolts hit him. Because that way, when he like splats again and he's just kind of sitting there, I guess regenerating, whatever he does. While he's sitting there, you can be shooting him with the converged 3 bolts because I think it does the most damage in the game when they're all connected and when they're all like aimed in. But really, just avoid his jumps, avoid the frosting, be careful where you go. Just again, be cautious, shoot him with converge. Sergeant Gumbo is the easiest mini boss out of these guys because he has one attack. He runs back and forth shooting combos out of his head. Just make small movements back and forth, between the raining balls. I even hit a super on him just to get him out of the way, but you can shoot him and use a couple X moves to kill him quickly. I really just wanted this to be over with. The final mini boss here is Sir Woffington III. He's probably one of the most unique out of the 5 because he flies in circles and explodes into pieces before like reuniting, I guess. In normal, he'll explode into all his pieces at once, but on expert he'll explode twice. In a cross formation, then an X formation, or an X formation then cross, he just explodes twice. There's really no problem dodging the waffle squares. Even if like you have a jelly bean under you, you can probably just dash real quick and get out of the way. But like yeah, all these mini bosses, they really have no challenge. It's just kind of getting through them quick enough so that you can make time for the final stage. Because once this stage ends, Woffington dies, goes to Waffle Heaven, or wherever Dead Waffle's going, we can finally move on to the final stage. After finally realizing her minions suck at their job, Bon Bon loses it and rips her castle out of the ground. The castle then starts crawling, spitting out rolling mints that are parryable and will also crush you. While that's going on, Bon Bon's also throwing her head at you. This whole stage is pretty hectic. It's kind of crazy, but it's what I like about Cuphead, and just the stages get so like weird and wacky. They can really do anything here. But back to the fight. On expert, she throws two heads at once. Like she'll throw one and then she'll throw another, and then you have to deal with the 2 heads, the rolling stone. It can be a lot. But what I recommend is whenever the mint goes to like the very edge of the screen, like where it's behind you, parry it at least a few times so that you can get your parries up and you get more cards. But really, the best thing to do here is avoid the heads, hit X moves, hit supers, hit anything. Managed to beat this first try in under 2 minutes with an A tier, And this would have been better, but I did the challenge, I'm moving on. Another iconic boss joining the Hall of Fame in Cuphead. Grim Matchstick beat my ass more times than I want to admit. He's probably one of the only few bosses that actually gets harder on expert. Other fights just get him more annoying with more minions or just shit flying at you, but no. Grim, he's harder, and everything he does makes sense, but when you get hit, you still get pissed. That's the pain of Cuphead. You play the boss dying over and over, knowing it's your fault, but you don't want to admit it. This game is completely fair, but also unfair at the same time. Got off track, but back to the main boss. Grim has 3 stages that get increasingly harder, but they're still manageable if, again, you play careful. Stage 1 is a pain in the ass with how the clouds move and what his attacks are. Those attacks are his tail wiggles at the bottom of the screen before shooting up, laser beams, again shot out of his head, and fireballs flying around. His tail attack is pretty self-explanatory. I just explained it. It just wiggles on the bottom of the screen for a bit before thrusting up. His laser eye beams are sort of like the ones from the Carrot in the Root Pack fight, but they're like ovals. The final oval is parryable, so you can finish all your parries in stage 1. He shoots them in bursts of 3 before moving on to the final fireball attack. His fireballs are the main attack he seems to do, but he also shoots them. He also alternates between the 3 attacks. He shoots them one at a time first before going into 2, and those ones kind of cycle up and down. Like one will go up, the other one will go down. Again, pretty easy to avoid. Just honestly, just dash past him and stay near him once they're flying. But other than those 3 main attacks, this stage is, you can go through it fast if you have Roundabout. Stage 2 sees Matchstick becoming a vessel for these fire conductor and his fireball crew. There's only one attack here, and that the fireballs occasionally jump at you. Due to the expert game mode, the fireballs jump higher and more often. Now, earlier in the video I said Lobber is the second worst shot in the game. I would never use it personally, but this stage I had to use it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm admitting it's good. It has its situations, but it's not good. I realized this like the first run, which you're watching right now. This is my first run. I realized it. I was like, hold on a minute. Lobber actually works here. But even with this new launch, this stage is still really fucking hard. For some reason, the clouds above his tongue deal damage, even though they're not touching the heads of the fireballs. Like, I guess you could say, maybe the hitboxes are messed up, but still, like, I've died so many times jumping on there thinking it's safe, and then the little fire like tips, whatever, the smoke I guess kills me. But anyway, this stage, use Lobber, pretty easy, and then we get on to the final stage with Grimm's final mutation. The final stage is Grimm transforming into a Hydra with more fireballs as an attack. I get he's a dragon. I get that's the main thing dragons do. But damn, is it annoying to deal with all the fire. The worst part is the fireballs aren't just asked to avoid. If the fireballs are shot, they split into 4 separate parts. And I swear, those parts must be like homing missiles because they always find a way to hit me. The previous runs I've always done, they've always hit me, like no matter what. But that's not the only attack he does. He also has this like flamethrower attack. One of the heads in the middle turns into a flamethrower to breathe fire. Even though, like I said, he's a dragon, but it doesn't matter. What I recommend for this stage is do not use Crackshot or Chaser while he's spitting out fireballs, because if you Crackshot and Chaser will shoot, like the fireball itself counts as a target for some reason, so Crackshot and Chaser will go after it and they'll blow up the fireball, and then you have pieces everywhere and you have to deal with all that. But I did it. Honestly, it didn't take me that long. I know it kind of sounds like I've been complaining about this fight, but it really didn't take me that long to beat it. I managed to beat him in 1:36 with an A- rank. But, I'll take it. I'm not going to redo Grimm at this point. I don't want to redo him either way because the next bosses are airplane fights, and airplane fights suck. Jimmy is a special kind of boss. He's the kind of boss fight that makes you want to break down and cry. His 5 stages take some serious concentration to make sure you can survive them, and it's even harder to survive past them. Unfortunately, I've had to break my own rules a bit here. I stated that I need to beat every boss under 2 minutes, and I would only get 1 exception per aisle. I'm not going to use my exception for this boss fight because I already have it for the next one. But it just kind of... it left me with really... well, I mean, I did have a choice, but I decided to do this just to make it a bit easier and I can get the video out a bit sooner. Because if I really wanted to, I could easily get this boss under 2 minutes. It just that it'd take a lot longer than I really want to take on this. But I've decided this is how I'll do it. I've decided to beat the boss 5 times with the same rules, you know. A minuses are higher, and yeah. But I'm gonna find the average of those times and use that in the final counting. So Jimmy, I beat him 5 times. I think I got A minuses and A plus. I think I got an S rank even. But you know, that's the way I'll do it. That's the way. This will probably be the last time I have to do it. But if I do need to do it again, I'll mention it later. Stage 1 has 3 variations that are each equally shitty to avoid. All variations begin when Jimmy pulls out a chest out of his ass cheeks and starts throwing shit out. The first one is a bunch of treasures that start flying towards you, with some rubies in there being parryable, so you know, you can get some HP. This variation is kind of easy if you stay as far back as you can and dash through tiny spaces in between the treasures. Really just make small movements, and I wouldn't recommend staying small because you won't do as much damage, but if you need to, definitely go small. Another attack he could do here is that he reveals his chest. He opens his chest to reveal a cat sarcophagus flying out of it, and then 3 gold cat statues fly out of it, and they follow you for a bit before flying off. I think Jimmy lets 4 of these out before moving on, but those 4, if they each have 6, that's like 24 cats to avoid. Actually, I think the final one only leaves 4. But it's still a lot of cats to avoid, and even though some are parryable, it's not worth it to go for those because you could go for it and end up getting hit. I think this is the worst stage out of all of them because the cats are like, there's so much of them that there's barely any like room to breathe. The easiest out of the 3 is the swords that fly out of the chest. They basically just line the walls, they line the screen. I mean, not walls. They line the top, bottom, and the left. And they're pretty easy to avoid because I think they move like 1 at a time. You don't have to worry about all of them flying at you. And then some are parryable, so you can get some easy HP and parries. Really, there's no challenge here. You can get hit sometimes if you don't look where the sword is going. You accidentally like move in front of it. But I mean, that's stage 1. There's 3 variations. I consider stage 2 more of a transition. You just have to make it through 8 pillars in between each one. There's spinning blades that bounce around very fast, and it kind of makes it hard to avoid. But really here, just use your bombs. Go small when you're going between the holes, I guess, little like spaces. And yeah, that's basically it. Just a transition stage, you know, nothing crazy. Even though stage 2 is nothing, stage 3 is actually the easiest part of this whole fight because you can avoid most of the attacks if you just stick to the top of the screen and use bombs. Basically what happens here is Jimmy turns into this slime thing, slug thing that comes out of his sarcophagus. He'll shoot his eyes in like this weird oval pattern that will like shrink and then grow and then shrink and then grow again, but it's nothing bad. The mummies do fly out a bit fast, and like, you know, they're kind of, if you don't look at where they're going, you could get hit, but really just use your bombs here because you can hit him while he's above, and you could easily avoid the eyes, most eyes. I think 2 patterns actually could hit you, you just have to dash past them. And then the mummies, you know, just hit them with a bomb, they'll die. If you have a super here, you probably would have one by here, but just save it for the next stage. The next stage, it's something else. Cuphead. Cuphead is an asshole. Doesn't matter what anybody has to say about him. Everyone loves him and draws weird, questionable art of him, but it doesn't matter. Game Cuphead sucks balls. And that's mainly because of how stage 4 plays a big part in how you're going to finish the fight. Because if you mess up here, stage 5 is going to be borderline impossible. Cuphead himself, he has like 1 attack, and basically he just copies Cuphead and shoots 3 to 6 like pea shooter orbs that I think every fourth are parryable. Like every fourth one is parryable. You know, that's not too bad, but they go really fast, and you can't get to him because there's like bullets coming up, so you can't hit him with a nuke here. You have to wait until he's like walking around. And then while you're doing that, Jimmy's turban is flying around shooting circles of bullets. So you have to deal with like a mini bullet hell, having to avoid the bullets coming from the turban and then the orbs coming at you. It's a hard stage, but I found the trick. On the final, or at the end of stage 3, Jimmy's like he's like doing whatever. He's like meditating, trying to find out what to do. While he's doing that animation, you can bomb him, and then as Cuphead comes down, you hit a nuke, and then you start spam parrying Whetstone him, like using the Whetstone parrying him with the Divine Relic, and it does. I like to think it does a lot of damage, but realistically, I think it probably does like a fourth of the stage. But at least it's a fourth of the stage I don't have to do. But like I said, if you mess up here, stage 5 is gonna be borderline impossible, and it already basically is with how hard it is. Stage 5 is Jimmy's final desperate attempt to survive. Just kidding, this is his most powerful form. This is when he's probably could kill you with one shot. But Jimmy turns huge and summons 3 Illuminati pyramids, and there's the second attack because he has another one, which is basically just shooting more mind beams. How many of these bosses have mind beams? Like genuinely. Carrot, Grim, Matchstick, Jimmy, probably the pork rind guy, but it doesn't matter. One of the pyramids will open its eye and shoot laser beams in a T shape while spinning like the circle formation that it is. So it's hard to know where to be safe and where to move. What I recommend is as the eye opens, move to the smallest space near it. I know that sounds weird, but basically when it opens its eye, there'll be like a small space like near it, like on top of it, behind it, wherever it is. Move there, because when the pyramid finally shoots the lasers, that'll be the biggest spot. It's kind of like predicting ahead of time. But other than that, those are the only 2 attacks. It's just that it's kind of hard seeing like where the small spot is, where the mind rays are going. So what I recommend here is hitting a nuke if you have one. Other than that, or hitting a nuke if you have one, and then after that just start spamming the bullet X moves, like the chomping missile things. Because while you can't say for an X move, it's better just to start spamming here, because by the time you get an X move, you might already beat it, you might die, or you might go overtime. But I finished the boss. Like I said, I'll have to tweak my rules to make this fit. I hadn't beat Jimmy in under 2 minutes, but you know, that's that. Our next boss is he's a doozy, to say the least.
You might think you've peeped the scene. You haven't. The real one's far too mean. The watered down one, the one you know, was made up centuries ago. They made it sound all wacky horny. Yes, it's awful, blasted boring. Twisted fiction, sick addiction. Well, gather round, children, up and listen.
Can we get much higher? So high.
Wally motherfucking Warbles. I'm gonna be completely honest with myself and anybody watching this. Wally deserves to be the exception boss. No matter what, no matter how you put it, no matter how you fight him, he will always be the most difficult boss of IL-2. And it's a good reason why. His boss fight makes the best of players look like amateurs, and it brings gods to their knees. Even Luna is scared to eat him. Nico's afraid of his own father.
Can we get much higher? So high.
Wally starts his hell dance with 2 attacks and minions. The attack he'll do the most often is throwing up an egg that breaks off into 5 pieces, making it hard to know exactly where to go. A tip again I took from watching Justo Day, Justo All Day, whatever his name is, Justo All Day, I'm pretty sure. Is to stay a cuphead length away from the edge of the screen. I don't exactly know what a cuphead length is, but just stay a little bit off from the screen so that way when the egg ends up exploding and the pieces go everywhere, you're safe in the space between the... You're just safe. And then the second attack is turning his head into a finger to shoot 3 bullets. You know, it's... Whatever Wally wants to do, he does. And then his minions, which are weaponized children. Wally is not a good person at all. He's really not a person. He's not a good bird. Whatever he decides to be, he's not good at anything. They're not even his children either. They're just random chicks that he picked up and attached a nail to. But the minions are not anything like, you know, insane, I guess. You know, they're just birds flying at you. The 4th one is always parryable, so you always have a guaranteed parry. So, you know, a minion's a minion and Wally's a piece of shit. Wally's stage 1.5, I guess, is the first instance of bullet hell in Cuphead. Not a lot of bosses have these stages, but out of all of them, Wally's probably the easier one. His feathers don't move as fast as like you'd expect them to, because it's expert, and there's a lot of space between the feathers. And the chicks still fly through, like they still fly through the screen, but you can kill them and then shoot Wally. I'd recommend using cards if you don't have a super, if you don't already have a super, but if you have one, just save it for his next stage. Wally's fat ass finally falls out of his house only to reveal his son was behind it all. A Palpatine behind the evil plans to enslave child soldiers and deal with the devil. Willy Warbles, according to the Wikipedia, is a nightmare that keeps me up at night. The expert version of the stage brings tears to the strongest of men. He has one attack, but the spiky eggs that revolve around him is where the challenge comes from. His only attack is to shoot a parryable like orb laser thing. But his eggs like revolve and expand around him, so it's pretty hard to avoid them. They also move super fast. It's literally it's like a saw blade just around him. Getting hit here when you know you shouldn't have is like the worst feeling. It's like the Jimmy Pillar stage. It's not easy like the Pillar stage, but getting hit here is horrible. Because like I know I just said it's super hard, but when you really like look at it, it doesn't look hard. It just kind of looks like, oh, you just move around. But like I said, if you have a super saved, use it here immediately. And then if you can, parry him like crazy. Because this stage takes a while. I think this is the longest stage out of the fight. Because like, he can take hits. He can take hits. For being a little tiny bird with a fat ass head, he can take hits. But once he starts bitching about losing to a cup in a plane, it's time to move on. You may think it's over, but no, Wally, he's not out of the fight, even on his deathbed. In this stage, he's on a stretcher carried by 2 paramedic birds, just basically waiting for him to die, wanting to clock out, just let this bird die. Because he's a tough one. He's naked on the fucking bed, dying, still fighting. He has 3 attacks here to worry about, and they're mostly just bullets or stuff flying at you. The first one is garbage thrown out of Wally's trash can head. Yeah, again, I don't know. Maybe his deal to the devil is turn his head into anything. But that's the first attack. The second one is kicking his own heart out to shoot you. Wally himself only attacks twice, like these 2 attacks, the trash can and the heart. But the birds will throw up pills that split in half, and then one half goes towards you, the other half just kind of goes somewhere, I guess. Some pills are parryable, like once in a while they'll give you a little, they'll throw you a bone and the pill will be parryable. Usually they're not. Here, just use the bomb shot and then avoid anything flying at you, and that should be enough to kill him. Supers here are super crucial, but again, if you don't have the time to save, what you can do is you can go under him, like under the bird to the left under him. There's like a little part where it's like he's hanging out of the stretcher. Use the bullet X move there and like the chopping one again, and then you can hit him at least 5 times. I'm pretty sure. At least 5 times. You can hit him a lot is the point. But even after all that, I couldn't get the run, so this will be my exception boss along with Jimmy technically.
Shot town nigga with a 9 flow. And my chick in that new 55 though. So much
kid, I woke up to sleepy hollow.
Can we get much higher?
Rumor is one of the other bosses that actually becomes harder due to the expert rank. Like Grim Matchstick, the heat is felt here. She has 3 stages that each have their own obstacles to overcome. Stage 1, Rumor orders a bee cop to start attacking you, and he really only has 1 attack. Security bee will throw a bomb that explodes into 8 spike pieces in an X cross formation. While he's moving around chucking grenades, there are worker bees that are just done with life. When you're killing it, you're probably doing them a favor. Just look at these guys. The hardest part of this stage is really trying to get all the parries done, because the way they're shot off, you might accidentally jump on a platform and end up just getting hit by them, because the parries only spawn in the X of the bomb, so it's a weird angle. It's really hard to hit them. It's really frustrating to get hit by the spike, because it's only stage 1, you're already getting hit. But just really kill the cop, be careful, don't lose too much HP. The second stage is a bit more to deal with, but there are only 3 attacks to actually worry about. Her first attack is directly in the middle of the screen, which is dropping her head down on a chain that shoots out bullet bills. They move in an upward zigzag pattern pretty quickly. While the stage is pretty easy because you can just jump up and down and avoid the bullets while shooting her. I use a super during this attack because she's right in the middle. You know, she's an easy target, she's not doing anything, so might as well just hit a super. Her other 2 attacks are pretty similar because they both happen on either the left or the right side of the screen. They're both magic attacks that are parryable, so you can definitely get your parries off here. Out of the 2, the orb is the easiest one because it just spins in a circle that kind of follows you, kind of doesn't. The second one is a triangle that shoots off mini triangles out of its 3 points. The triangle spins and shoots 3 times before just flying off stage. I mean, none of these attacks are really hard. They're just kind of like, you deal with them, and if you get hit, you get really mad, so then you just kind of move on. I mean, nothing like groundbreakingly difficult here, because she'll just do these 3 attacks before moving on to the final stage. The final stage, Mage Honeybottoms transforms into an airplane and flies to the bottom of the screen. She has 2 attacks that are really hard to avoid. Not that bad, but even if you really know the fight, they're still pretty hard. The fists she shoots out seem to move in a weird circle, but you can dash around them and avoid them with some trouble. But if you have extra HP, then you could afford the hits. The second attack Rumor does is using the buzzsaw arm and slide across the screen, pushing you to the very edge. She'll use either the left arm or the right arm, so really watch which arm she'll shoot up. But the only word of advice I have is just be careful. Be careful where you jump, dash, anything. Be careful where you even breathe, because you could die here. After a collective 2 hours of attempts, I beat Honeybottoms within the 2 minutes, and I got an A rank, so happy with it. Let's move on.
Good day for a 12-hour. You're up. Diamonds froze, chill. I went platinum independent, then I signed my deal. Young nigga, 17, all he do is kill. And I'm drinking on that mud like a oil spill. Gucci jacket, oh yeah. Saint Laurent, oh yeah. Bust down, cost 100, nigga, that's a trophy. Ballin' like I'm Kobe, shoot you like Ginobili.
Captain Briny Beard is probably one of my favorite bosses of IL3, and it seems like most people also like him. This fight's pretty easy because he only has 2 stages, but his first stage takes a while to go through and talk about. Stage 1 is where you'll spend most of your time, so really deal as much damage here to speed it up. A barrel will be swinging above and will drop on you if you don't see where he's going, and it'll have an angry look when it's like ready to drop. Briny Beard himself will have 3 attacks. His main attack is using some squid to shoot little orbs at you. Most of the orbs are parryable, but some are normal ones, so like watch where you jump. Watch where you jump to parry it because you could end up smacking into it. Due to the expert rank, you'll also shoot. You shoot more rapidly with the squid, you'll like automatic fire the thing. There's another squid that shows up and it'll start blasting shit blobs, I guess, around. It'll start blasting ink around that can blind you. Briny Beard's next attacks are triggered by his whistling. The first one being a shark that lands on the deck after being whistling from the background. You can see the shark swimming in, so it won't come as a surprise. The shark takes damage, so I'm pretty sure that would add into Briny Beard's overall health. So, you know, hurt the shark or Briny Beard, it'll do the same amount of damage. The final creature to come to the captain's aid are these bulldog sharks that come from under the ship. They'll bounce around for a bit before just sliding across the deck. Crack shot is the best shot to use for this attack and just for the stage in general, because as you'll see on screen, the ship will start spitting cannonballs out, so you can dodge, avoid anything coming at you while still shooting and dealing damage with the crack shot. So, you know, use any chaser, crack shot, any of those shots here once like everything starts getting all crazy. But once you do enough damage, the ship will lose it, throw off its own captain to the depths of the sea. The ship's starting roar is the most bass boosted sound I've ever heard in Cuphead. That wasn't relevant at all, but I just wanted to say it. Anyway, the ship's uvula will start spitting these fire-filled bubbles that move really quick in like an oval-ish pattern. After spitting a few out, the ship will just straight up fire laser beam out of the uvula's mouth, I guess. You know, it doesn't make sense, but it doesn't have to. The laser beam is parryable, so you can either jump above it and just keep spam parrying it, or you can crouch under it. Keep in mind the barrel is still here, so you want to crouch in the right spot so you don't end up getting domed in the head with the barrel. But that's the only thing to worry about on the stage. Those are the only 3 things it'll do. So just use supers and X moves to really rush the final home stretch here. Captain Briny Beard is a good boss fight, but he is on the easier side, even with the expert rank. Finish the fight in a minute 44 with an S rank.
A great slam and then some. It's on.
back-to-back ocean fights. Calamaria is one of the 2 airplane fights on Isle 3, and she's definitely the easiest out of the 2. But that's not to say that she's not difficult. She has 3 stages that get harder but are still pretty manageable. Stage 1, there are 2 attacks that she'll actually do, and then the rest are done by minions. She'll grab a red or yellow fish before having the fish spit out something. The red fish will spit out a bunch of bullets in 4 waves before holy! I'm gonna keep that in just because how weird that was. But she'll squeeze the fish so hard that it'll just slip out of her hand. The yellow fish will spit out 2 electrified dolphins. I don't know why they're dolphins, you know, you think they'd be eels, but it's whatever. They fly around, kind of following you for a bit before just straight up flying off. The yellow fish is the easiest out of the 2 because the dolphins like follow you for like 2 seconds before just moving on. Next attack she'll do is to burp up these ghost sailors that'll fly, like triangulate onto your position. 3 waves will be spat out, so you have like 9 ghosts to avoid. They're pretty easy though, just stay where you are until they're right in front of you, then just dash off. 3 sea creatures can be summoned here. Pufferfish, a seahorse, and a turtle. A pufferfish will rise out of the ocean in a pretty tight formation, so be careful where you dodge and move. Some are parryable, but sometimes they're too close to Maria, and if you parry that, you might as well just like be straight up walking into her or flying into her. It's just not worth to get the 2 close ones, but get any parries, just get them all. Might as well charge up a super while you're at it. The summoned seahorse will spit water out of its mouth, pushing you up while you're trying to avoid it. Real quick, I'm just gonna mention that the seahorse kind of sounds like Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie. I heard it when I was playing one time, and I just really can't unhear it. Pretty weird. Both the seahorse and the turtle don't do much. I'm barely gonna mention the turtle because he just comes in, shoots up a few bombs that explode into 8-way bullets, and then just goes off. So that's basically stage 1 done. All the attacks, pretty easy. X move supers, you know, the usual. After surviving all this, Calamaria will be betrayed by her own eels and electrocuted to turn into Medusa. This stage is the start of the most annoying attack in this fight, the Stone Cold Gaze. Her Stone Gaze really messes you up, especially when the eels rise up and start spitting out crazy amounts of bullets, because you're gonna get frozen and hit. While these are the only 2 attacks in this stage, it's still a lot of eels that can show up at one time. They look like at least 6, but I'm sure they can be more if the Cuphead gods decided to. I try to use the bullet X move like on the bottom of the screen to try to take out as many eels as possible, but even then that barely works. Bombs don't even like try those, they barely work too. Really just pray. Just pray that you don't get frozen in front of one of these bullets. Pray, hit your X moves, supers, everything. Just everything you can do it here. Losing her body to the sea, Calamaria's decapitated head will fly to the final arena, a desolated cave full of sharp coral and random traps. Her attacks here are really similar to the last stage with the Stone Gaze and the venomous skull orbs instead of eels. The hardest part is avoiding everything while frozen because you still have to spam the buttons to break free, and just you have to make sure that you're not in front of a skull, coral, a trap. It's the cave has really weird turns, so you can get trapped in the worst spot. You can sometimes end up here and then you're so like worried about the fight that you end up messing yourself up and you just die. I think one run I got frozen in the worst spot twice. I survived and then I died because I just messed myself up. But finally, after a bit of work, I managed to beat her in a minute 36 with an A- rank. The next airplane boss is way harder, but I'll get to him after I go through a few more bosses first.
AK with the scope, nigga, and it's real dirty. He don't got Glock on the bottom, it ain't no real dirt. Fat, drinking out his acting, got my vision real blurred. My uncle just turned 49, and he still serving. Got a bitch hooked on dick, put a shoe straight on my tick. Yeah, I ain't never been no bitch. lost it. Bitch, I pop my collar like the boss. Nigga, pop your collar like the boss.
The actual easiest boss of IL3, Wiederman has 3 stages with basic attacks sprinkled here and there. I know you see his name, Werner Vermin, alright? I know you pronounce the V's. Weenie lights up a stogie and starts stage 1. A cannon will shoot either little red bombs or a catapult will shoot a bunch of junk. The bombs land and send off ground level sparks that move in opposite directions. A lot of bombs are sent out, so watch where you jump and land, you know, maybe even dash, watch where you dash to. The junk that he shoots off is kind of like Jimmy's treasure move, with the junk being fired off in a spread and 2 gum pieces being parryable. Really free HP here with the relics, so I always try to get most of them. Not really, I spent like 10 minutes on this boss, I didn't have time to figure that out. Anyway, he will charge towards you, and then he'll also send off springboards so you can jump on them in case you don't have smoke bomb or anything like that. This first stage goes by pretty quickly, so you can kill him before he repeats any attack more than twice. After a failed rocket attack, Vermin is injured but still in the fight, like a true soldier that he is. The explosion causes a board on the wall to fall down, making the fight a 2-level type of battle. Weenie's tank will either go up or down, shooting flames on both sides of it. The wall is also lined with buzzsaw caps that will wind up before being launched out. For being the easiest boss, this stage can get a little crazy, but I never had much trouble with it. I just duck and weave a lot here to make sure the saws don't even get near me. I also like hitting a superhero to deal as much damage as possible and to move on to the final stage. Because as he desperately tries to get his tank working again, Tom's cousin, Catswagon, comes in and just eats him. This stage is by far my favorite due to the genuine surprise I first had seeing Vermin just be devoured by the cat. The cat itself only has 2 attacks, but sometimes those attacks hit while you're in the shock of what you just seen. His main attack is slapping around his paw on either the right side or the left side of the screen, which causes these like wooden mini boards to start falling in I don't even know what like pattern, just like his diagonal pattern. Dashing through the gap should give you enough time to prepare for the next attack. The next attack is being these prisoner of war rats that come out of the cat's mouth. It's you know, it's something special. These rats will shoot out some spectral orbs that can be parried once in a while. Because there's 4 of them, I think most of them aren't parryable, but if you're playing on normal, then there'll only be 2 rats and then both will be parryable. What I like to do here is jump to the very edge of the screen and hit a super towards the cats, because then you can kill every single mouse and still damage the cat. Using spread also is the best way to do damage here, because any other shot won't really hit them, except if you have converge, chaser, crack shot, you know, the usual ones. But spread is really better because you're super close. You can just stand there shooting upward and you'd still be hitting them. With the spread EX move, I'm pretty sure most spikes will hit, but I don't really use them during this run. The thought of me just hit after I beat him, and I was like, oh, I could have done that maybe a bit quicker with the X moves, but it really doesn't matter. Inevitably, in the end, the trick is revealed. The rug is pulled out from under us, and it is shown that Catswagon is controlled by Wienerman. I gotta give credit to the guy. He really has everything ready. He captured rat souls to be put into his cat, so he either killed them personally or he just had them handy from when he fought in the war. I finished the fight with an A tier, even though realistically I should have gone an S, but it's too late to go at it again, so I'll just get on to the rest of the bosses, because IL3 is really long for no reason.
Good day for a swell laugh. Here goes.
Filled up, damn girl, I'll be getting back to you. Laced up, dripped up, sauced up, damn girl, I will ride with you.
This fight sucks. Like, genuinely it is a horrible fight. She takes so long to do because it's just crap. Everything about this boss is crap. Straight dookie. Well, I didn't take that long. I took around 30 minutes. All 30 of those minutes were slow. I probably aged 50 years and would be balding if I didn't have the lucky stroke that was my final attempt. I'll get back to that later, but for now I'll go over Sally's 4 excruciating stages. Stage 1 has her wedding interrupted, or at least the play is stopped, to introduce Miss Stage Play. She has 3 ways to hurt you that can be tricky on expert, but usually aren't too bad. She'll jump in the air and spin down diagonally, which on its own is, kind of easy, but when she combos it with another attack, you can get your ass kicked. A potential 2-piece she'll do is when she jumps up and send out these little hand fans that go towards you, and if they miss, then they'll stay stuck in the ground as a trap for a bit. These 2 attacks are her most common, but she will occasionally blow a kiss that is parryable. I usually get these because it's 2 less parries to worry about later on, and it's also free HP. But before I do actually move on, I want to mention that there is a secret stage that doesn't make the fight any easier, but it's still cool to see. If you parry the hearts at the right time and land on the floating babies, you can trigger the wedding stone thing above the husband to fall on him. This obviously kills him and it ends the first stage immediately. This changes the rest of the fight, and I'll show the changes compared to the normal fight later on. After either driving off with her husband or mourning his death, Sally will move on to the second stage. In the normal fight, the scene will be changed to a nursery where presumably she started her family with the husband dude. This stage is basically stage 1 on steroids because she has a new attack and the background has an attack too. The new attack is when the parasol opens up to reveal 4 toy mice that fall down, roll across the edges, and then they reach to the top before dropping down on you. This wouldn't be bad if Sally didn't spam this move every 5 seconds. I swear I was playing, it looked like there was an infestation on my screen, just rats. Sally's children will also show up and start throwing bottles straight down. So unless you want to get your skull smashed in by a geek baby, don't jump when you don't need to. Now when it comes to the secret stage changes, instead of a nursery, it'll be a nunnery with nuns throwing shit instead of babies. They throw rulers that actually go to where you are, and some are parryable. The priest will also be in the background instead of a husband bro. So, it's basically the same with 1 change. Both versions of the stage end with Sally dying and rising off the screen. Sally's angelic form is some Greek goddess with 3 brand new attacks. Finally, no hand fans or spinning Mortal Kombat kicks. No, these are much worse. There are 3 attacks that get called out as they are sent on screen: Lightning, Meteor, and Big Wave. Lightning is the worst out of the 3 because how they fall on screen in a goofy pattern. The bolts are also sideways, so dodging is trickier. Meteor is really part 1 of an attack because while the actual rock does damage, if you hit it a few times it'll reveal a pink star. The pink star is to avoid the big wave attack, which, as the name implies, there's a big wave coming across the screen. With Smoke Bomb you can just dash through, so this was never an issue for me. The star can come in clutch though if you want to keep a shot and not lose it after dashing. A final change to the actual fight, like from the secret thing earlier, is that the husband will be alongside his wife as a Greek god. He only has 1 attack, which is summoning a baby to push a fireball across the screen. The attack won't get a call out, but he'll raise his hand to show that a fireball is coming your way. Both versions of the stage are pretty tough, but this is the last actually hard stage before you're in the final stretch. Stage 4 is barely a stage because there are only 2 things to avoid here. Sally will be at the top of the screen moving back and forth, admiring the attention the crowd is giving her. The parasol will be skidding around on the ground while roses fall. The roses can be parryable, but whenever I play I get like 1. Chaser and Crackshot are crucial here to make sure that you finish the stage fast. Even using my own speedrun tactics and using every single card I earned, I still managed to barely beat Sally in 1:59. When I say this was a stroke of luck, I mean it. The game really blessed me with the shots I was given, but at the end of the day, Sally's done, and there are 2 more bosses to be done out of Aisle 3.
A great slam and then some. You're up.
Living a off borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. Gotta be the hour they knock the slick blaster. Dick dastardly and monthly with sick laughter. A gun fighting and come to cut the mixed master. Ice to be cold, nice to be old. Y2G3 twice to threefold. He sold scrolls, lo and behold. Know who's the illest ever, like the greatest story told. Keep your glory going to glitter. For half of his niggas will take him out the picture. The other half is rich and it don't mean shit to. Feeling a mixture between both with a twist of liquor, chasing with more beer. Tasting like truth for beer. When he at the mic, it's like the place get like, oh yeah. It's like they know what's about to happen. Just keep your eye out like I Captain. It's just a fly guy.
The boss everyone talks about. The boogeyman of Cuphead. Dr. Call is honestly really overrated in terms of difficulty. But you know, you can see where the myth comes from, because he is pretty hard still. But it's just that he's like a scapegoat for anybody talking about Cuphead. He's a manifestation of every challenge in this game, according to people. Dr. Call has 3 stages that look hard at first, but after you play through the fight a few times, you can see the patterns and notice little changes. You can make a pretty solid game plan. I'll break down the fight and reveal the truth of Dr. Call's legend. Stage 1 has a robot in full display and where most of the challenge comes from. There are 3 hitboxes, so you can choose which parts you can destroy first. The antenna, chest hole, and the gut hatch all have around the same HP, so the only change would be which attacks are done. I personally go from top to bottom because it's the way I'm used to. There are way better ways to get through this, but I prefer the way that I've basically always fought it. I'll explain each piece and the attack that is replaced with when it's destroyed. For the antenna, there's a charging laser that is shot and lasts for a few seconds. It takes a bit to charge, but since I go for this first, I only usually have to avoid one laser. When destroyed, the new attack is a shotgun blast of bolts out of the robot's head. These move slow, so you can easily move through the spaces and avoid getting hit by them. For the chest hole, a double-sided pink laser is pushed out of the hole. Parrying the gadget will turn off the laser. Destroying this, the chest dispenser will introduce the robot's arms into the fight. So really, like 2 attacks are added. First one being the robot's arms will swivel in from the left side of the screen, and they will make it to the robot before pulling back and shooting off these energy orbs. The other attack is the arms will use a magnet that will pull you to the bottom left of the screen. The magnet in the hands don't do damage, but they can drag you into the bolts or the little magnet planes that fly out of the gut hatch. Speaking of the hatch, 4 little magnets will be deployed at the start of the fight, with more waves going out as the fight goes on. When this is broken, mini nukes will be sent out instead. These things blow up in the shape of Dr. Call's skull, so the explosions are really big. I know this is a lot to go over, but this stage isn't as crazy as, like, you know, it seems. And after playing this stage for a bit, you'll usually know which attacks are coming up, judging by his movements. After you destroy all the pieces, the robot's heart is revealed. I usually hit a super on the heart and spam whetstone the heart for a bit, just to get it to like the final slivers of HP. This usually ends the first stage pretty quickly, but sometimes more shots are needed, maybe a few X moves to fully finish it. When the heart is destroyed, the robot's head will launch out of the socket and start phase 2. Phase 2 is kind of a transition, but it still takes a bit to finish. The head will fly across the screen while more mini nukes will be buzzing around. 3 at most will be on screen, but the second one is destroyed, another one will come in, and it'll just keep refilling to make sure there's at least 3 bombs always chasing it. The bombs can crash into each other and blow up, but mostly they have to be shot to explode. What I do during this stage is to switch between bullets and the bomb shot. I use the bullets when he's flying directly towards you on the top of the screen, and I use the bombs when he's flying below. But sometimes this can take too long to finish, so using only bullets can speed the stage up to the most notorious part of the fight, the final stage that everyone talks about. Stage 3 is the most documented, guided part of this game. There have been countless and countless videos on how to beat this stage. Is it really as hard as everyone says or exaggerates? I don't think so, but I can see where the challenge comes from. This stage is the definition of bullet hell. Dr. Call will choose between a red gem or a blue gem to terrorize us with. A red gem will shoot out little red gems in a circle formation that includes a few pink gems that you can parry. The blue gem shoots out the same gems in a counterclockwise formation, it's kind of like a sprinkler. sort of way. There are also a few pink ones included in here, so remember to get your parries. Along with these gems, electrified walls will also block most of the screen. It's kind of like Jimmy's second stage, but way worse. The walls block your bullets, so if you're too close, just turn small and avoid hitting the walls. Hitting supers and X moves has to be done to finish this fight. So focus on avoiding the obstacles and gems while stacking up your cards. At the end of the day, Dr. Call is the least of your problems when doing a speed run or a challenge run. When you play through the fight enough that you can memorize the attacks and the patterns, it's like second nature beating him. I finished the fight in a minute 56 in the A- rank, so you know, not too bad for Dr. Call, the worst boss in the game. We still have one more boss to get through, so before we move on to the final section, let's get to the most forgotten boss of the game.
A great it's all.
Drive slow, homie. Drive slow, homie. You never know, homie. I need some hoes, homie. You need to pump your brakes and drive slow, homie. My homie Molly used to stay 79th from May. One of my best friends from back in the day. Down the street from Calumet, school full of stones. He nicknamed me K-Rock, so they'll leave me alone. Bulls jacket with his hat broke way off. Walked around the mall with his radio face off. Plus he had a spinner from his Dayton's in his hand. Keys in his hand. Reason again to let you know he's the man. Back when we rocked the leases, he had dreams of caprices.
Unfortunately, the most forgotten boss of Cuphead, the Phantom Express. They really look great, and their fight is challenging while being reasonably beatable. They're simply overshadowed by every other boss in Cuphead. The boss consists of 4 stages that each use a member of the train. Said members are the Blind Spectre, Conductor, Lollipop Ghouls, and Head of the Train, which is just the actual train. The first phase is the Blind Spectre, and he has one attack that is really easy. He'll pop eyeballs out of his hands that bounce up and down across the screen. About 6 or 7 eyeballs can be released at once. While he's doing this, pumpkins fly across the top of the screen before dropping pink ingots onto the cart, and the valves on the side of the cart can be affected by the ingots, which moves it, as you can see just happen on screen. The best shot here is Converge, because by aiming at his hands, you can destroy the eyeballs before they're even shot out. You'll also be hitting him at the same time, so you can do as much damage as possible while not having to deal with the eyeballs. The only challenge is shooting the pumpkins to avoid being pushed too close to the ghost. Spectre is the easiest part of this fight, so let's move on to the second freak. The Conductor has one attack that can be cheesed to do as much damage as possible. The Conductor will bust out of the 3 cabins before slamming his hands directly down. This is his only attack, so just move to where his head is and shoot directly up. But the way you can outplay is to stand in between his hands when he slams and use any of the homing shots or Converge. Converge works, but fully aimed in, the angle is a little off, so Crack Shot is the better shot to use. I sometimes hit a super here, but it's not necessary because of how short these stages are. When I don't use it here, I'll save it for the next stage, the Lollipop Ghouls. Out of the passengers, the Lollipop Ghouls are the most difficult, but they're not like crazy hard. They take turns throwing up lightning across the carriage, making it to the other side. The pumpkins are not here and instead are replaced with these ghosts that float towards you, and when they're killed they drop pink skulls that just fall directly down. One super cuts the ghoul's HP in half, so I try to use one here if I didn't use it on the Conductor. Converge again is probably the best shot to use here because while one is puking lightning, you can focus on the other one, turning it to mush. So after they both melt, the train decides to join in and avenge his fallen brethren. The train produces most of the challenge because of the amount of shit that goes on screen. The fight goes from 0 to 100 right as the train starts running along the tracks. There are 2 attacks the train actually does, but the pumpkins are back, so there's a bit to keep track of. The train's tail has to be parried before the train can take damage. When the tail is parried, the side track is opened, the side hatch is opened, revealing the train's heart. This also allows the 2 attacks to be used now. Fireballs will fly out of the hatch when it's open, and the train will eject fiery bone rings that stop and fly towards the left side of the screen at any time. Chaser and Crackshot are really the best shots because you can parry the tail and worry about avoiding attacks while still shooting. Using X moves and supers really speed up this phase because at this point it's probably been like a minute and 20 seconds, so you really have to hurry up. After finally killing the train and murdering the dead again, the fight is done. I beat the fight in a minute 57, just barely under 2 minutes. I also get the S rank, so this is a nice finish to Inkwell IL3. But now it's time to move on to the final section of the main game. King Dice is the second most notorious boss of Cuphead, behind Dr. Call obviously. Poor King Dice, he's always number 2. Anyways, his boss fight is the longest fight in the game, so getting this under 2 minutes is pretty much impossible. Since the beginning of the run, I knew that no matter what, King Dice would be the exception of IL3. No matter what I do, the only issue with King Dice was beating him in a reasonable time. Going over the fight and each mini-boss would take forever, so I made a top 5 of the most annoying bosses I had to deal with in this run, so I can move on from this quicker. These drunkards are number 5 because they are annoying, but I didn't fight them a lot to warrant a higher spot in the list. The 3 each have their own attacks that correlate to their drink. They correlate to their drink. Rumsky will lean for a bit before tipping over and spilling his drink. Jeanette will release flying olive eyeballs that shoot out their own eyes towards you, some being parryable. Rum will pop his top and rain down rum on the player. So, you know, they can do them, each of them do their attack like pretty close to each other, so it can be a bit to avoid. I had no real challenge with them though, because the super can take out at least one and cut the rest of the drink's health in half. I'll move on to the rest of the list because I don't have anything else to say for these drunk mofos. This blunt out of hell is pretty easy, so he's number 4. Just spinning fireballs and moving in an oval pattern before just moving off screen. In the middle there are flying cigarettes that block off the middle section. Weezer will also move between the platforms by turning to ash. He moves randomly between the platforms, so there is no timing. X moves can speed this up, but I like using roundabout and shooting backwards so I can get the most damage out of it. Old Weezer's nothing too special, so he gets smothered with 4th place. Bugs Bunny drug addicted cousin is number 3 because he is hard if you miss the parries or miss the skull dash. Those are the only 2 attacks he does, but the worst one is the parryable symbol line thing. A line will appear either on the bottom or the top of the screen, and blue symbols will be what damages you. Pink ones you parry to make space for you to be safe. The skull dash is basically a circle of skulls that encase you, leaving a space for you to jump through. Smoke bomb makes this trivial though, so I just use super and roundabout if I have it, but really any shot should be able to kill him within a reasonable time. Pocus is downright annoying to deal with, so I just want to forget this damn rabbit exists. Well, yes, he is one of the easiest bosses on the board. I don't know why I had trouble with him. He has one attack, and he will just slide across the screen in different pieces. That is the only thing he does. That is legitimately the only thing he does. I think what really got me is this one move he'll do where he jumps, like, he breaks apart just enough so that you have to jump through this section where if you jump too high you get hit. If you don't jump at all you're gonna get hit. That's what killed me here. I swear, fighting him just gave me like caveman brain. I just forgot how to jump properly and I couldn't actually beat him. I don't know why he gave me so much trouble in these runs, but I still beat the crap stage, so I'm just gonna move on to number 1. George got 2 cures here and became a robotic crackhead. He has no set hitbox until you match a set of cards, which sometimes takes a bit to match. Using supers or X moves are useless here because he will not die unless all the cards are matched. His only attack is playing his symbols that send out these golden notes in a 6-way, and after moving for a bit they'll disappear. Chimes take so much damage in these rounds that this fight takes forever. I age in this fight, I swear. Like, it just takes so long to beat him. It just takes so long to beat him, is what I'm saying. But he can be beaten after you play his memory game. Supers don't even like. You may think hitting a super is gonna speed this up. No, if you damage him enough to kill him in one of these rounds, it doesn't end the fight. It just moves on to the next set of cards. So this fight alone, it takes like at least 5 minutes. So if you get him on a speed run, just reset the whole run. It's not gonna be saved. With the top 5, I only scratched the surface of these bosses and how annoying they can get. But enough of the mini bosses, time to get on to the big cheese himself. Dicey only has one attack that is pretty easy to manage, but man, once you're here, you're shaking. I was shaking like crazy when I first got here and I instantly died. So, you know, just try to calm down before you fight him. Dice will start spouting out cards from his hand with pink ones sprinkled in between. The gaps between the cards can be crazy sometimes, but you can dash. If you dash, you gotta be really careful not to end up dashing into his hand or maybe missing the card just by a little bit, and you end up falling into the cards that aren't parryable. You can also get behind his hand and shoot his head, but it's really hard predicting which hand he'll use because sometimes he'll use the same hand twice, and just play it the way you're supposed to. Don't cheese this one. Even hitting a super, you're still going to need to do a lot of damage before Dice finally submits. Ends with King Dice bowing to the cups, realizing he's never going to be number 1 at anything.
Something sinister to it. The pendulum swinging slow, a degenerate moving through the city with criminal stealth. Welcome to enemy turf, harder than immigrants work. Golf is stitched into my shirt. Get up off the pavement, brush the dirt up off my psyche. It's probably been 12 years since my father left me fatherless. And I just used to say I hate him in dishonest jest. When honestly I miss this nigga like when I was 6. And every time I got the chance to say it, I would swallow it. 16, I'm hollow and tolerant. Skip shots to storm that whole bottle. I show you a role model. Drunk pissy pissing on somebody's front lawn, trying to figure out how and when the fuck I miss moderate. Mama often was offering peace, offering stink. Weeds cough, scoffing, and he's off.
Finally, after going through bosses and mini bosses and whatever else was thrown my way, I finally arrived. It's time to take on the head honcho, the mastermind behind it all. The devil is honestly easier than most people give him credit for. His 4 stages are pretty manageable if you got the right shots and just know how to fight him. I think what really gets to players is the fact that you're fighting the devil. You know, you made it to the end of the game, you're finally here, you win, you're done. That's probably what gets to like everyone's head. But I'm gonna get to it because I don't want to dwell too much on this. We still have another aisle to go through. Stage 1 is where the devil will look the most normal, but he still has a lot of attacks that he can cycle through with little demons running about. The demons peek their head out from behind the devil's throne before running across the screen. They're pretty weak and die from a few shots from anything. But it's just how minions work in this game, you know. They work just to be annoying. But to Big Devil himself, he has 6 attacks that he will cycle through. 3 are magic attacks and 3 are like animalistic transformations. The magic attacks will all have at least 1 parryable projectile somewhere in it. A fireball circle with a pink center is the first magic attack I dealt with, and I think it's personally the worst one to avoid. There's a split second between the devil summoning the spell and the fireballs actually moving, so you really have to be aware. The fireballs spin in circles while moving across the floor. Just jump in between the fireballs and dash. Try not to dash a lot because you could accidentally end up dashing into the next fireball or smacking into a demon. It's not good to dash while this attack is going on. These bubble crystal ball things are the easiest spell to avoid because the balls bounce pretty high and usually stay away if you jump and dash when needed. The good thing is the balls spawn in and don't start moving for at least a few seconds, so you can kind of maybe prepare. I don't know how you prepare, but you know, you just be ready for it. Out of the 4 crystal balls, one will be parryable, and the parryable one is usually The parryable ball is usually on the bottom 2 ones, so you can always get that and only have to deal with 3 of them. On the rare occasions on the top one, just get it when it's like near you, but don't go for it because you can end up getting hit by it. The final magic attack is kind of like the spinning fireballs, but instead these fires home in on the player. 6 are spawned in a hexagon shape, with the pink one usually on the top for some reason. I don't know why, but you know, it's Cuphead RNG, I guess. They are never in reach, but it doesn't matter because they will still fly towards you eventually. These fires are quick, so the second they spawn in, they start flying. It's still better than the spinning one though, because the fires take turns going at it. If all of them just flew at you, that'd be just insane to dodge. I think if all of them flew towards you, I'd probably just give up this fight. But anyway, that's all the magic, but the devil still has his tricks up the old sleeve. I tried to get up here because I don't want stage 1 to take a while, but he has 3 transformation attacks. For the goat one, he'll clap his hooves together on the bottom of the screen. You have to jump above the hands and dash or hit a quick EX move because it's just not possible to crouch under. In the fight, he'll pause before most likely hitting this clap. Another warning is to watch where the little demons are running because you could accidentally dash into them. The next transformation is a spider head. The demon's head will turn into a spider and start slamming down to the floor. This spider will be moving though, so it drops down pretty quick. It starts slamming like crazy. Charge is the shot I prefer here because I charge the shot while the spider's moving, and when he slams, hit him with it. You know, blast him. The final move here is this snake head that will push you into the corner. This forces you to either get hit by the devil or one of his minions coming across. But you can't always dash into the wall and avoid the minion. You can also crouch in the spaces the devil kind of like flops over, but I never tried that. It's too risky for me, so you know, I never really. This is just stage 1, but the later stages calm down a bit and simplify to the usual 3 attacks. After the devil sheds his skin, he turns into this big red miscreant. Here there are only 3 things to worry about, so this is already an upgrade from stage 1. The first attack is an eye axe that will come out of the devil's combined eyes. The axe will spin in a circle that gradually gets farther out. I just jump in between 2 platforms to avoid the axe, but I'm sure you can find a better way to dodge. The devil's next attack is to release a pink bomb out of his ear, but you can always parry it no matter what. This is a free way to get cards, and you won't ever worry about parries if you just parry every bomb he drops, or every bomb he releases. When it comes to the environment, poker chips will fall down on random platforms. Just don't jump too high and the chips are pretty avoidable. Hitting a whetstone axe attack between the devil's eyes or on the devil's eyes can also speed up the stage a lot. So I like using it, you know, even if it's not the best charm. While the devil works on hawking up a loogie, fat minions cover the sides of the screen. Holy! The poker chips keep falling on the platforms, but the middle 3 are the only ones left. The minions will spit skulls that can be parried, but it's really hard because the whetstone can sometimes register the parry as an axe attack, so you miss it, and then you just get a skull slammed right into the gut. I prefer to kill the minions as soon as they show up, and 1 or 2 charge shots can kill them. It just becomes kind of hard. It's kind of hard to do that when the devil's pimples start popping and these like weird axe birds come out. Spinning axe birds, I guess. Buzzsaw birds. There we go. We finally push the evil to his breaking point. In this final stage, the devil knows the end is near for him. I fought hard to make it to this moment and I was ecstatic. That was a big word, my bad, but I was really excited, you know. The devil only has 1 attack, which is just crying bloody tears that can be parried. There's so much parries here, so if you don't have the max parry, I don't know what to tell you. The poker chips fall way faster and there's only 1 platform, so you have to jump off and dash back to make sure you don't get hit. This stage is similar to the King Dice fight. Your nerves are destroyed at this point. You're shaking because you're beating the devil. You're gonna beat this guy, and he's crying over it. Like, come on. It's over. I've beaten the main game with only the Divine Relic, which I realistically knew was possible. Really, most challenges are possible in this game because of how the game's bosses work. Any shot, any X moves, any supers, anything can kill them if you have enough patience and dedication. But the fight's not over yet, you know. I still have to do IO4, so let's move on to that. Yeah.
means. I had to custom the vibe, custom the lean. Cover the back of the line, front cover magazine. Cover your eyes, cut it up back of the V. Yeah, our chemistry, just like the trappers and jeans.
I'm just gonna straight up say it, every boss in IO4 was damn near impossible on Expert. After these runs, I wasn't even focused on time, I just wanted to see if I could beat it or not. I got lucky on almost every run and beat most of them, but you know, definitely was a tough fight. Time is a different question that will get answered for every boss, but enough complaining about the DLC. Let's move on to the actual boss on screen, the Moonshine Mob. They have 4 stages with most of the gang members making an appearance. There's a spider, ladybug, anteater, snail, kingpin, fly, bum, henchman, bugs, caterpillar dude, moonshine barrels, and ant cops. There are a lot of bugs here, but they all contribute to at least one stage. Stage 1 is the spider boss's first official boss fight. It's a common fact, I guess, that this boss was reused from a scrap battle in the main game. I'll put up a picture of the spider real quick. You can definitely see the similarities between that spider and the mob spider. For the mobster spider, he has 3 attacks. I usually rely on minions more than himself. First move is deploying web bombs that usually explode when you touch them. They are regularly replenished, so just dash past them and they'll explode. I like exploding them because then the screen won't be covered with the stupid bombs and it just helps clean up the space. His second attack is to call some henchmen flies that basically block the platforms, but they're weak. They're like the little devils from the devil fight, but this is, again, like I mentioned, just how minions work. They're meant to be annoying, they're not meant to like pose an actual threat. The spider's only actual attack is to kick a caterpillar. Is to kick the caterpillar from earlier and turn him into this like bouncing ring. This caterpillar can be destroyed with a few shots from really anything, but hitting it is kind of hard, so I just avoid it and focus on the spider. Along with the mobster stuff, ant cops will also be shooting pesticide rings that go until they either hit you, the spider, minions, or just go off screen. Some rings are parryable, but they're really hard to get, so I'd recommend hitting at least one, and then just saving the rest for later. This stage takes a bit, so shooting at him and making sure that all shots hit while he's on screen can speed it up, but this stage will take the most time to beat. The spider lowers his toots down to begin stage 2. This is another piece of reused content. A scrap boss called the Light had a similar pattern with 6 lines rotating across the screen before 3 of them turn red and turn into energy beams. The same idea is present here, just without the projectiles in the middle and extra enemies on top and below. Lightbug will also dance across the middle platform, so staying really close with spread is going to be harder than it already is. Justo All Day comes in like the second coming of Luna and blessed us with another S-rank video guide. What he recommends on the second stage is to crouch near the edge of the platform while shooting roundabout backwards. Hitting a smoke bomb dash at the last second will let you pass through the energy beam completely unscathed. This would work 100% of the time if I didn't have the Divine Relic. You see, dashing with the relic randomizes your weapon like if you stop shooting. This added an extra challenge to the non-airplane levels because if I had a good gun, I would end up losing it in a few seconds. I should have mentioned that earlier, but I'm sure you could have assumed just by watching the videos. Back to the strategy, it works, just not if you're using the Divine Relic, because you lose roundabout instantly. I've droned way too long about this stage, but I'd speed past it by hitting a super and shooting her with whatever shot I have after dashing, or just whatever shot I have on hand. Stage 3 is the part that really messed me up in every run. The Anteater makes his debut, and it's a grand one. He has one attack that repeats throughout the stage and a few little sly tricks. On either side of the screen, the Anteater will stick his nose on either of the 3 platforms, shooting his tongue out. Eventually, he will fully shoot his tongue out, where a giant mothball amalgamation will bounce across the screen. His eyes are indicators that show up whether he'll tease the tongue or shoot it out. I never want to say that again, but an expert, you'll shoot up to 2 mothballs that can be bouncing around at once. Sometimes you even have 3, but eventually one will leave. So at most you'll be dealing with 2. And they have a lot of HP for some reason. The worst part is there's not even a hard part. These aren't even the hard part. The hard part is getting a good shot that will damage the mothball and be good against the Anteater. I narrowed it down to Chaser, Crackshot, and Converge. The other shots will work, but it's going to take a while. Chaser's number 1 shot. Chaser is the top 1 shot because it's quick enough to hit the mothballs, while Crackshot's a bit too slow to the draw. Supers and X moves are critical to getting a good run, so just use them when needed. Don't like hog the cards. Don't hog your cards, that's what I'm saying. Just use them when you have them. Don't be a hog. A final unexpected stage is a fake knockout that reveals the snail is still in the fight. I did die to this guy, and I'm not proud of it. He will shoot out these bladed sound waves that can be parried, but I never go for these. I always end up at the stage like 1 HP, so any risks I don't take. Crack shot is the best shot here because you can run back and forth to avoid the waves hitting him. Chaser would obviously work, but I think crack shot does more damage, so go for that one. I still love every boss in this game, but I also hate them because of how annoying they are, I guess. I don't know. Whatever, I'm just gonna end it. Glummy here is the boss I underestimated the most. I thought I would speed through this whole fight in like 10 minutes, but it took me a while. It took me a while to even beat him, much less speed through it. Glumstone has 3 stages that are really crappy to get through, so let's walk through the toilet here, little septic tank. Bumstone awakens from his hibernation and begins his attacks. He has 3 attacks that, as usual, he will cycle through. The first one on the list is this gnome cauldron attack that'll be done when Glum opens his mouth. These chemical creature things fly out of the cauldron and start moving towards the left side of the screen. There are 2 parryables here that I usually try to get, so I can get my parries in the first stage and not have to worry about them later. I'll mention real quick that while Glum attacks, little gnomes will be trying to also kill you. Some will pop out of the beard snow and start popping gold nuggets towards you. At least 4 can be down there, but always pop them before they start cluttering up the screen, filling it with a bunch of gold and stupid gnomes. Light blue gnomes will also climb up the platforms and start hammering the top. They will always die as long as you shoot them once or whetstone parry him. Back to Glum's attacks, he will whistle for geese to fly across the top of the screen. Some platforms also go up to push you into the geese. Just dash between the platforms or jump down onto the spikes. Just don't stay on there for too long because there are gnomes waiting to puncture you with their hats, because, you know, why wouldn't that be? The last attack is Glumstone reaching into his ass to pull out a very pissed off bear. The bear will always come to the 4th platform before it's thrown off into the, I don't know, distance. It's thrown off and explodes, that's all you need to worry about. I will always smoke mount through his hand, but most people will probably just walk under the bear on the spikes. I never really... It was in my head, like I could have done it, but I just never did it. I just never actually processed doing it. But these are all of Glumstone's attacks. You'll rip off his beard and start phase 2. Because, you know, every sane person rips off their beard when they're mad. Glummy plays up a puppet show and this stage just sucks. There is no redemption for this part and nothing is great. There are only 2 attacks here, so it's at least not cluttered with random garbage. That's exactly what the gnome attack is. They leap out of the leftover beard hairs. Some are parryable, but they're not worth it at all. You could hit one, but then you get hit by the bouncing beanbag. The beanbag is the main attack, but it sucks. It's horrible. The ball bounces in a weird angle, so it's really hard to see where to go to stay safe. I always dash, but I can never end up with a good shot to finish this stage quick enough. Even in those lucky runs where I could beat it super fast, I would die immediately in the next stage, which is... I don't know. I don't know if it's worse or better, but it's a stage for sure. Said next stage is in Glum's gut, so it's an interesting setting to be for sure. The ulcer sliding across the top of the screen is where you're supposed to hurt. Shooting it consistently enough is the real problem. Twist up, chaser, crack shot, converge, anything would really work here. Any of those shots would work here. So, you know, make sure you get one of these, or maybe you could use another shot. Figure out the new cheat that I didn't know about during this run. You'll need to jump a lot here because you have to avoid the bird darts and gnome shootout. Glum still has gnomes here. He has an infestation of little guys, little crappers, little dukers. Anyway, the ulcer will still attack by spitting out food items that bone crocodiles will eat and sink into the stomach acid. Platforms being taken away are a big part of this fight, so parry the cowbell tongue to reset the crocs. This fight takes a while to finish. I barely managed to beat it under 2 minutes, but it was still done. This fight will take a while to get and speed through, so if you're gonna do it, don't use a divine relic. I I don't even recommend the Divine Relic much, I'm gonna be honest. It's alright.
A great slam and then some. It's on.
Mortimer sucks. Like, genuinely, he's a horrible boss to fight. Mortimer was the boss I thought would be the exception, and I fought really hard to make sure that he wasn't. Because, he is hard. Like, I don't know why he was so hard. Like, I genuinely spent minimum of 2 hours on pure attempts. And then I ended up going back the next day, had some help, and I finally managed to beat him. But he has 3 stages, you know, the usual, he has 3 stages, each of them are harder, yeah. The most common attack you'll do here is open his cloak to shoot down 4 icicle dudes. They stay stuck in the ground for a while, and when they take enough damage, they'll jump out. After unstuck, they just walk around until they either die to your shot or get slammed off screen by a whale. Frieza's second attack is pulling a whole whale out of his hat and slamming it down onto the floor. This attack resets everything because the icicles will be thrown off screen and the whale will go away. It's not going to stay there. The last attack you'll do is whip out a crystal ball table and send off cards. Flying cards. As usual, some are parryable, you know. This stage has nothing special. Let's move on to the second stage where it all changes. It all goes straight down the toilet. The real game begins here with stage 2. Snow takes over Frieza and basically becomes this Venom symbiote thing. The usual 3 attacks exist here: rolling, ice cubes, underground blades. Snow will either just roll across or jump over the middle part of the stage. He has body language that shows he's either going to roll or jump. If he pulls back, he's just going to roll, but if he lifts a bit before just dropping down, he'll jump. He'll do a few of these movements before moving to either a blade attack or a refrigerator attack. The blade attack is the simplest attack he'll do because he just slams his fists and blades shoot out of the ground. They shoot out right to left pretty quickly, so to avoid it, you'll have to jump and dash across the blades under you to make sure you make it past them. The snow monster turns into a fridge and shoots out ice cubes that pop into 4 waves of pieces, each piece will break into 2, so you have to end up dealing with a lot of ice. The top door will open to let the popsicles fly out. These popsicles are what makes the blade attack hard. If you either get hit by the popsicle jumping into it, or you hit it on the way you hit it when you're coming down from your dash. A way to eliminate the pops is to hit a super right as they fly out, so you can kill at least 2/3 of them. This stage always requires the most dumb luck to pass with even 2 HP. My winning run had 2 HP here, and I couldn't heal anymore because I would use them all in the first and second stage. So this stage is the hardest one you'll do. I don't even have tips for it. Just trying to get hit. The final nightmare transformation is a giant snowflake. Going with the lucky number 3, he'll do 3 attacks. Ice cream cones will be spread apart on the screen and fly towards the middle. Essentially, a snowflake shape will be created with the lines, but just jump in between platforms to avoid the cones. His next attack is a 2-piecer. Along with the horrifying expression he makes, buckets will be thrown. When they hit the edge of the screen, they'll explode into 3 moons that fly back towards the platforms. The final horror move he'll do is launch out an eye that will shoot a split-second laser vertically, and it'll circle the platforms. The laser will shoot 3 times before being returned to its rightful owner. This boss just sucks. It's Jimmy all over again. Unlike Jimmy, I did beat him in under 2 minutes though, so luckily he won't be an exception boss. He was like this. He was this close to being it. But through the lucky power of, I don't know, just the power of perseverance, we'll go with that, Mortimer was taken down.
On demand, bags on demand.
Quick little detour, but I decided to beat the secret boss because to even get the relic you have to beat these guys. There are 2 attacks here, but the ones sent out by the demon are the ones that actually do damage. The gimmick of this fight is that you will face a demon no matter what. In turn, this makes the angel always behind you. The demon's attacks are spitting fireballs and releasing fire beams that cover the entire platform. Some fireballs are parryable. To avoid the attacks, you can turn around and turn the fire beams into ultralight beams. The angel will also sing and send out halos or light beams. This is literally it to the fight. There's no difficulty setting, so I just timed myself beating this boss. That took about 1:50 and no letter rank, so I'll move on to the next actual boss with rankings and a timer.
Take advantage of the sprite. Take the band over in a hype. We just go hard, yeah. Had to catch up on my bitch. They know that young niggas lit.
Any bosses after Mortimer Freeze were just cakewalks through the park. These guys bomb the park with their pretty intense stages that are kind of hard to get used to or really know, but after 30 minutes you could easily get this down pat. Stage 1 has Rocket flying an airplane with his 4 sons. The puppies sometimes pop out of the little hatches in the plane's wings and drop 3 tennis balls that fall in like a triangle. That's the only thing they do here before their actual stage, but it is what it is. The Bulldog will have his own 2 attacks. Both of them are pretty easy to dodge. The first one, you'll grab a cat that kind of looks like Catswagon from the Wienerman fight. Is it a coincidence? Probably not, but I doubt there's like a big conspiracy that linked the 2 bosses together. It's just probably like the same model that they reused. The cat will spit up yarn balls that can be ducked under or jumped over if you have the willingness to do so. His second attack is flexing the ink that sends 3 bones across the screen before boomeranging back towards you. At least one will always be parryable, so parry those, stack up, and use your super here. There's really no point in waiting until stage 2 and then waiting all the way until stage 3, that's just a waste. So really use it here, spend stage 2 saving it up. Occasionally a serpent dog plane helicopter hybrid will fly in the background shooting off homing fire hydrants. These things are really weak and there are only like 3 sent out at a time. Pretty quick stage, and with all the parries you can easily get your parries done before you even finish this stage. You can get them like the first 10 seconds. Stage 2 is nothing too special. The pups are the main attraction here. They will spin in a circle and spit out the letters B-O-W. They spell out bow wow because they're, you know, dogs. I've said it so many times again, some letters are parryable. Just making this video, the words parryable, super, and X moves are forever ingrained in my head. There's a secret stage that you can do, but I didn't bother with it. And I'll show a clip of it after I show the normal stage 3. Stage 3 is the infamous part of this fight because it's the most unique stage out of any boss. The serpent aircraft from earlier will grab the screen and lock you in between its paws. Out of the little beanies, I guess, lasers will come out and set up patterns across the plane. The lasers are already pretty wild, but the interesting part is the second half of this fight. The whole screen will turn sideways, and now you have to deal with the dog's balls flying out at either head level or feet level. It's actually easier to figure out how to fly a plane with no instructions and use this than do this stage. There are 2 control options given to try to make this easier, but they really don't help at all. I just use the control setting that leaves the controls alone, so I have to turn my head. I got a few cramps in the neck, but if I meant speedrunning this boss, then it was worth it. Probably not, but whatever. The secret stage is triggered by getting all the puppies in stage 2 to have gray smoke coming out of their jetpacks. Instead of them exploding and falling off into the distance, the aircraft will swallow them and put the player in the same spot as the normal phase 3. Same spot as in between the paws, but without lasers or turning or any of that crazy nonsense. The puppies will basically act as minions here, throwing around pineapple grenades that explode into 8 pieces. The Saluki will appear randomly out of the 6 spots and command the ship to shoot more of the homing fire hydrants. It seems in Expert she'll skid around more, making this stage longer. No matter which way you play this boss, the learning curve of stage 3 is a steep one. Just play and use the control setting you are most comfortable with and you'll speed through this fight no problem. I got an A- rank in under 2 minutes, so I'll move on to the only actual plain fight of the DLC.
Leo West thing. Robbing the bank. Bang. Pull like the bank. You was a strange. We don't relate. No. Racks in the safe. Steak on my plate. My sons are done. My bitch Amazon. My blood is hung. She fucking for sons. I wanna be like Muhammad Ali. Hang on no ropes and I beat you to sleep. Talk they get my niggas talk is too cheap. $1 million when you open my brief. Celebrity status, so keep this shit brief. Joke about me cause I keep it in reach. No nigga didn't do that shit like that boy me. That's word on the street, let me preach. Listen, your nigga, sometimes you don't speak. Pull out that stick and I'm sweeping the street. I make $250,000 every week. She said that my soul is making.
For being the only airplane boss of the entire DLC, she was really easy. After having to deal with the past 4 bosses, not counting the Angel and the Demon, Winchester was a real nice break just to cross out the final boss I would have to do here. But that doesn't mean I didn't have any troubles with it. In a perfect world, maybe, but this run was far from perfect. 4 stages to get through, so the first one has to be short. With what's going on, it seems this will be the longest stage. There are 4 attacks, but Esther herself will only do 2. She'll use these snake oil guns and shoot oil pellets that spin back, smack the right side of the screen, and then they explode into 2 more oil snakes that will go across the left side of the screen. Esther will shoot twice before moving on to the next attack. Said attack is abusing a random cactus that will be pulled on either the top of the screen or the bottom. Both the oil attack and the cactus attack can be done in either the top or the bottom of the screen. Each level will also have a minion to attack you. A flying bird will fly around and spit cactus balls towards the player. As usual, a few are parryable, but most are not. Last minion is a vulture that will drop dynamite that explodes into 4 pieces and then 3 pieces. Even though all these attacks happen here, this stage can be sped through with a super, a few X moves. Winchester whips at a vacuum to be the easiest bullet hell ever. There are 2 movements she'll do, but first she'll start up a vacuum and bring you and money towards her. Then after filling up, she'll start shooting safes out of the sky that will fall and explode into random coins or dollars and gold bars even. A pink coin will fly out randomly, so really stack up your parries here and get some nukes ready. Esther will cycle between these 2 poses, so hit a quick super or bomber with the mini bombs. Just get into the kettle cooker and start up stage 3. Stage 3 has an eeriness that I can't really put my finger on. Maybe it's the fact that Winchester has turned into a living sausage monster. Maybe it's the face she makes while spitting out a steak. The face is really creepy, man. What the hell? The only 2 things to avoid here, but the side-scrolling speed is really fast. Like it gets to like super speed levels pretty quick. The cans of beans in the middle of the screen will release string beans either above or below. As I mentioned earlier, Winchester will spit stakes that spin like the axes from the Devil's stage 2 attacks. Mostly these stakes are avoidable, but with obvious pink ones here and there. Sausage Monster will also fly to the top of the screen, so it's like stage 1 with the 2 levels. Supers also really have to be done here to hurry up this eerie mess. The stage ends with Winchester being packed up into a tin can. Tin Can Winchester will only have 1 attack while flying weenies close in onto the screen. There are spaces between the links for you to fly through. The image of Winchester on the can will also spit a variety of jalapenos. Red, green, and pink ones will fly in a shotgun blast across the screen. This is all that will happen, but there are times where getting to the spaces are damn near impossible. Hitting a smoke bomb right before you hit a sausage link should be enough to save you from being hit, but sometimes the angles are not right, so a hit is just inevitable. No matter what, you should just keep shooting and earning your cards. A super is always the end goal for the stage, so hit it. The second you see those cards light up, you hit a super. Winchester was a nice stopping point to slow down and take a breather. The last few bosses were pretty hard, especially Mortimer, but my time was done. My calm before the storm was about to be over. While I basked in my 1 minute and 45 second glory, I realized that this victory was only temporary. Because now, with every boss out of the way, it's time to face Chef Saltbaker.
I know what it's like to lose. Feel so desperately that you're right. Yet to fail, nonetheless. It's frightening. next to jelly. If I ask you to what end? Dread it? Run from it? Destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say, I am.
A brawl is surely brewing. Now go!
Since the beginning of the run, I knew Saltbaker would be the final pain in my cheeks. Before I could finish this run and sleep soundly, Saltbaker needed to be finished. Everything didn't matter when I fought him because the only thoughts in my mind were if I could beat him and if so, how fast. It should really go without saying, but yes, he is the exception boss of IL-4, but for a good reason. A reason that stays present throughout this entire fight, all 20 minutes of this fight. Saltbaker is the boss that starts off insanely difficult but mellows out as the stages go on. When I say mellow out, I mean the fight gets 1% easier, so really don't get hopeful that you're going to be cruising through this fight. The ingredients you have collected throughout the DLC will be used as weapons. I didn't mention them in this video, but for those who don't know, in the DLC, Cuphead and the gang fight for the Wonder Tart ingredients. The Wonder Tart would allow the ghost Miss Chalice to be reformed as a living body, as a living person. Saltbaker was meant to help her, but he was actually evil and only wanted a soul to sacrifice. Only wanted a sacrificial soul to rule the astral plane. Saltbaker really hits a 180 and becomes a full supervillain during this fight. 4 of the ingredients will be used here as an attack. The first one is the distillery dough, the prize for beating the moonshine mob. The dough will be turned into animal crackers that hop around on the cutting board. 8 will bounce around and they can die with a few shots. This attack alone is not really hard, but it's only a problem when other attacks are being used at the same time. A big combo that Salty likes to do is to chop up the desert limes and set them off while the crackers jump around. The limes will work like boomerangs from Cagney all the way back in IL-1. The limes will either be low enough to crouch under or too low that you have to jump over. Jumping is dangerous too because you might catch a lime at the right angle and you get your head smacked. The fires that jump down also make dodging in general hard as ever. They jump at the exact same time that you're either gonna land on them or you accidentally jump into them or something. They just angle it perfectly that you hit them. But nothing compares to the most evil act Saltbaker does. When the naive Sugar Boy shows up, he is confused about what's going on. Saltbaker ignores his scared looks and murders Sugar Boy with a stake straight through the skull. No remorse shown, just straight smiling at the fact that he killed the boy. And he killed the boy on screen. The sugar cubes created by the death will float on screen in waves, with a few pink cubes sprinkled in there. The final attack done by Salty is essentially another assault. He will squeeze the hell out of a basket of gnome berries. They go falling onto the screen at a diagonal angle, but this doesn't change how annoying it is to avoid the berries. All these attacks can be used at the same time, around the same time, so this stage can really get clogged and cluttered with a bunch of garbage on screen, and this makes it the hardest stage of like all time. No stage lives up to stage 1 because of how hard surviving everything is. Surviving this stage is like surviving a Saw game, because once you finish this, you still have to deal with the other 3 stages full of random crap that Saltbaker throws at you. Saltbaker will enlarge after popping a shroom in his head/hat. While the intensity of the attacks lighten down, the flames survive to this stage, so you have to deal with these. You can't directly damage Saltbaker here, so you have to send off these pepper missiles into his face. I don't know exactly how much HP they have, but they tank shot after shot before finally deciding to fly off into Saltbaker's face. These pepper shakers will also sneeze out peppercorns that fly towards you but don't home in. They just fly around where you are. Most are orange or yellow, but some are pink. Supers are kind of useless here because with one super you can only hit 2 at a time. Sure, it's good to get 2 missiles sent off at once, but I really don't find the worth in it. Crockshot's X move is pretty good because it's a little turret that'll constantly shoot at some of the shakers. It can probably send off at least 1 before disappearing. The last attack that will be done here is actually the final ingredient, peppermint grenades. While the grenade part isn't being used, the leaves will rain down on Saltbaker's palm. They last for a while, and even when they land, they stay for a second before disappearing. I've had runs end because I landed on the leaf. I thought it disappeared, but it didn't. Luckily though, this is the last stage with a lot of attacks to worry about because in final 2 only have a handful of obstacles. Transition stage here, and it is pretty easy. In this realm of salt, the chef's remains will be present in the background. A salt creature that appears to be 2 Saltbakers dancing will drop down onto the field and start prancing around. 2 buzzsaws will also be on the ground, so be careful where to dodge here. They bounce in a pattern similar to Goopies, so just remember to not jump too high and to dash when needed. A final desperate attempt to get the soul enslaving Wonder Tart. Saltbaker's heart will start bouncing between these salt tornadoes. These tornadoes will close in and make the section pretty small. Glass platforms will fall in a random order and a random size. So really watch where you jump. This stage is a real nerve wrecker because if you survive to this stage, you're done with the DLC and in turn the entire game. I only made it to this stage twice. The first time I died within the first 5 seconds. It broke me and I genuinely wanted to punch something. I wanted to like punch a hole in my wall or something. Just go like ape mode crazy and start destroying my room. But I calmed down. I stayed relaxed. I played for like another hour or so before I finally beat this damn stage. Just keep calm here and do not dash. Dashing could send you into the heart, the wall, or into the bottomless pit. Parry the heart when you need to and use a super when you have one. I had invincibility because I found the milk shot super only useful in stage 1. So super 2 was more helpful in the long run. Either way, I beat Saltbaker in over 2 minutes, but still pretty quickly. With Saltbaker done, I have beat Cuphead with the Divine Relic. It's done. I can sleep soundly tonight knowing I've completed it, but that's not the point of the video, right? It's how fast I can beat it. Well, excluding all attempts and overtimes, I beat Cuphead in 48:55 while only using the Divine Relic. Not the number I was expecting, but still a good result nonetheless. Hope you enjoyed the video, but honestly I don't think I'll stick to making multiple part videos. Unless the game itself is that long, I'd rather make small 15-minute videos. Easier to manage and it allows me to upload more often. Thank you to those that stayed with me throughout this run. Have a good one. Remember that a like and a subscribe would help a whole lot. Stay safe and goodbye.